Hello. I'll call the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals of McHenry County to order. I'm going to kind of recap where we left off and where we need to go today. Last time we were together was August 27th, and we finished one of the hearings for this company. And we were working on the second one, which is the Pebble Solar Farm. We had gotten through the testimony portion of that meeting, and we had stopped during the board questions to the petitioners because we ran out of time. And today we're going to pick up there, but before that, the petitioners do have more testimony that they wish to give, so I'll give them a chance to do that. And then the board may have more questions based on that testimony, so we'll go there. And after that will be your turn to ask questions. Is everybody who's here and plans to speak today, have you all been sworn in? Okay. All right, I'm going to swear everybody in just to make sure everybody's done. So please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony today? Yes. Thank you. Okay. We can go through the board introductions again since nobody remembers names anyway. So we'll start with Bob.
Robert Cozen, Algonquin Township.
Mary Donner, Greenwood Township.
Charlie Eldridge, Richmond Township.
I'm Vicki Gardner from Nunda Township.
Jessica Beverly, Door Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
Bill Kernick, Grafton Township.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves? I see some new faces here today, so we'll go ahead then with your testimony after your introductions.
Sure, I can begin. I'm Dylan Haber. I'm the lead developer from Cultivate Power.
Mark Gershon, my colleague Ben Jacoby was here at the last meeting, and I represent Cultivate.
My name is Paul Bottom, and I'm a developer with Cultivate Power and the Skystone project.
My name is Erin Bowen. I am a property value expert with CohnReznick.
My name is Sarah Skronsky. I'm an environmental scientist with Kimley Horn.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, and if you want to recap a little bit, go right ahead. Otherwise, just pick up where you have left off.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think we're going to go back to the slides and through everything, but I just, I had mentioned to the planning department that we wanted to provide a little bit of additional context around property values and impacts there. So we've brought in additional testimony here, presentation, and I'll hand it over.
Okay, and again, say your name when you get on the mic because we're recording this and the people who are transcribing need to know who's talking.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Bowen. I am a real estate appraiser and property value expert. I am a director at CohnReznick. At CohnReznick, we specialize in property value impact studies from a variety of sources ranging from landfills, cell towers, big box retail, all sorts of potential uses. And particularly we focused on renewable energy projects, solar and wind developments for the last 8 years. We approach the issue of whether or not an external influence has an impact to property values in a three-pronged approach. The first of which is to review published academic studies to see what other institutions and papers have said about the issue. The second approach is to perform our own paired sales analyses. And the third approach is to conduct market participant interviews. So the first approach is the academic studies. What have other institutions have said about this? Typically, academic studies use large-scale regression analysis in which they're looking at hundreds of thousands, if not millions of data points from kind of like a bird's eye look. They're looking at it from a very broad perspective. There are 7 published academic studies at this point. I have listed 4 here. The other studies that I have not included are qualitative studies in which they're putting out surveys. So they're asking assessors or residents that live nearby what their opinions on. I'd like to point out one of the most recent studies, the Loyola University of Chicago, that was published in September 2024. This study I'd like to highlight because it is the first of its kind to focus on property values and solar, specifically in the Midwest, whereas majority of the other studies were looking at states that did not include Illinois in particular. So the Loyola study looked at 70 utility-scale solar projects across the Midwest, and they found that actually that not only did solar not negatively impact the adjacent property values, it had a very small positive impact, ranging from 0.5% to 2%. And they found that that small increase was attributed to the additional property tax revenue that was generated by solar projects, and that was an influx into the school systems. Generally speaking, well-funded schools tend to attract more families and attract higher prices. The balance of the studies have found that there is essentially no impact to adjacent property values. The next approach is to look at, instead of a very broad perspective, a very micro approach. Instead of looking at homes that might be half a mile away, a mile away, at CohnReznick, we really want to understand what's happening at the homes that share a property boundary. Understanding that if a home is directly adjacent to the solar project, that would be where you would see the biggest impact. If you are looking into the panels as opposed to driving by the panels, the homes that share the property boundary look into the solar panels from their front porch, from their back porch, or maybe even might be surrounded on multiple sides. That would be where the biggest impact would be seen. So our methodology takes a look at an existing solar project. We identify if there have been any homes that share a property boundary have sold after the solar project is in operation, and then we compare that to a like-to-like or an apples-to-apples comparison to other similar homes not next to the solar project. So if we're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on half an acre lot, we're comparing it to other 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes on half an acre lot. Or if this is a farmstead property on 5 acres, we're looking at other farmstead properties on large lots. So we have done this multiple times, over 40 existing solar projects across the United States, in Illinois, in the Midwest, and we have found by looking at these homes that are sharing property boundaries have not had any impact to their property values, their sale prices. Not only did we find that there was no change in sale prices or prices per square foot, we're not seeing a change in days in market. So it's not that these homes have to sit on the market much longer than other homes that are selling within the same time frame. We also found that the rate of appreciation is the same as other homes in the community. We also found that solar facilities don't deter new construction, and found that doing a before and after construction analysis, that the trend in sale prices remains the same. So I'd like to go into a specific example, kind of walk you through how we're looking at this. This Freeport Community Solar Garden in Stevenson County, you can see, I don't know if this, well, I'm pretty sure you can see the aerial map of the existing solar field. It is adjacent several properties, particularly the single-family residences to the south of the solar farm. There were 10 homes adjacent to the solar panels. We identified 2 of those homes sold after the construction of the solar facility. And those 2 homes sold for approximately $77 a square foot. And we compared that to other homes in the larger area that were not near the solar farm. And those other control sales, the homes that were not next to the solar, sold for $76 a square foot. So approximately 1.65% difference between the homes that sold next to the solar and the homes that were not next to the solar. We also spoke to the real estate agent who listed and sold the properties. Not only did she say that they did not have any impact, there weren't any fewer buyers, that she didn't feel that it sold for less than market, but that the days on market, 40 and 51 days on market for those two homes, was similar to the other homes in the area, which were 61 days. I mentioned that solar doesn't deter new development, new construction. I'm not sure with the bright lights if you can see to the right or the east of the yellow square that there is an existing solar development. This particular solar farm was constructed in, I believe, 2016 in Porter County, Indiana. And this solar project has been around for a while, and recently the Lennar Home Construction Company has been constructing 175 home subdivision right up next to this existing solar facility. In fact, the homes that share a property boundary are within 100 feet of the panels. These homes are selling for an average of $365,000, but the homes that are next to the solar panels are actually selling for a little bit higher, an average of $387,000. So not only are we not finding that people don't want to build brand new homes next to solar, but they are selling it for the same, if not more, than the rest of the homes in the community, indicating that the being next to solar is not a negative impact. We have done these studies throughout Illinois, throughout the Midwest. I wanted to make sure if there were any particular examples in McHenry County. There are 16 existing solar projects in your county. The vast majority of them have been developed since 2020, with about a third of them just in the last year alone. However, because we're looking at very specific criteria, we're looking for homes that share a property boundary with the solar project. We haven't been able to identify any transactions of homes in which to do that very specific paired sales, analysis. And the methodology is we look at the existing solar, we identify all the homes that directly touch the property boundary, and if any of them have sold, we're able to conduct this research. For example, this Armstrong Solar project was developed in December of 2024, and the last two sales of properties were more than 5 years prior to the construction of the project. So that means it doesn't make for a good candidate for study. But we did want to make sure that we took a look at everything that existed here in McHenry County. However, we did speak with the McHenry County assessor, who stated that they haven't seen any evidence of solar farms affecting property values. So this is the last piece of our analysis. We're taking a look at, those macro studies. We're taking a look at the micro studies. We're looking at, data, hard numbers, empirical evidence. Sometimes it's pretty easy to get lost in the numbers, and so we want to make sure we take a step back and talk to the people who are living and breathing this, and get that in-person evidence to make sure that we're talking to people who are directly experiencing this. So we speak with county assessors, not just McHenry County, but assessors throughout Illinois, and then also, I think I mentioned earlier, the real estate agents who are listing and selling these properties to understand if they are seeing any evidence of homes not selling for market value. So in conclusion, based off of our research and analysis of existing solar, we have found that there is no evidence to suggest that solar facilities decrease property values, not only from our direct research, from our analysis of academic studies, from our discussions with assessors and agents, and we haven't found any evidence on sale prices, appreciation, new development, and feel that our research shows that solar does not impact property values. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I have a couple, and then maybe the board will have some as well. You used a term, utility solar farms, that is probably not familiar to a lot of people. Are these solar farms that are being heard today, are those considered utility solar farms?
So when I mentioned the utility solar farms, that is solar farms that are greater than 5 megawatts. That was an academic study that specifically looked at larger solar farms that were 5 megawatts and larger. The homes that are consideration today are not utility scale solar projects. But I would mention that the academic studies that look at larger scale solar, I think that those results can be applied to the community scale solar facilities that are being proposed to today.
So you're saying if it's a larger solar farm, then it's, more acreage and so on and so forth, more to look at, and there's no impact to houses that are abutting these large farms. Is that right?
Correct. I think that, that particular academic study that is looking at larger, more acreage, they're not finding an impact. So it would be fair to assume that there wouldn't be an impact on the smaller solar facilities. However, I don't want to rely on assumptions, and the evidence that CohnReznick has researched looked at specifically community scale solar projects that are similar to the projects being proposed today. And similarly, we have not found an impact to property values. So just because we're looking at large scale solar doesn't mean that it's applicable to everything. So we do want to make sure that we're looking at all scenarios and still are not finding any evidence to suggest community or utility scale solar has a negative impact.
Okay, thank you. And also, you said that you couldn't find any homes that have been sold that are abutting solar farms to make any comparisons to see how the impact is there. Is there any reason to believe that homes in McHenry County would have an impact that's different than others that were done in the study?
No. So we looked at the existing solar facilities in McHenry County and weren't able to identify any transactions that were appropriate to study. We did find some homes that have sold that were adjacent a rail line, and on the opposite side of the rail line was an existing solar facility. However, we didn't feel it was appropriate for us to study those transactions because we couldn't necessarily say that if there was an impact, would that have been attributed to the solar farm or would that be attributed to being next to a rail line? So it's not that there have not been any transactions whatsoever. It's just there haven't been any transactions that in McHenry County that we would feel that we would confidently be able to study and isolate, a potential influence. However, once again, we don't want to, rely on any assumptions. We did speak to the McHenry County assessor to get their opinion, and they stated that they did not find any evidence to suggest that being next to solar has a negative impact on property values. And our studies in other counties in Illinois have shown that there isn't any impact. So we don't have any reason to believe that there might be something specific about McHenry County that would be different from the other counties in Illinois that we have studied.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody on the board have questions for Aaron? Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah. Talking a little bit about the Loyola study, I think, let me start out by saying I think you're probably correct that there isn't a statistically significant impact on property values from the creation of these. But I'm afraid that, in my view, the way you spoke about the Loyola study is just nonsense. A utility scale facility is somewhere north of 100 megawatts. The one we have approved here in McHenry County is 300 megawatts. The amount of taxes that they generate is a couple of orders of magnitude different. And while that may well impact people's views of how well-funded the schools are, something moving the decimal point over on the smaller side, there's no statistical reason that the small one should too.
Right.
I mean, it just is not applicable. And I think that I would not try to use that comparison if I were you. That's all I have right now.
The Loyola study, and I wouldn't want to make a claim personally that being next to solar does increase property values, but the Loyola study, their results show a small increase. They did separate out sizes, and they looked at homes surrounding solar facilities 20 megawatts and less, and then 20 megawatts and larger, and they actually found that solar facilities on that smaller side, 20 megawatts or less, did have a slightly higher impact on property values, closer to that 2%. So I think it's, projects between 5 megawatts and 20 megawatts. I understand that, the projects here are only 5 megawatts, and so once again, they're not completely the same. So I don't want to say that, definitively that, the results of the Loyola study should be applied to this situation. I'm suggesting that this is one piece of evidence of multiple pieces of evidence.
Yes, but your testimony was 70 utility scale, and utility scale is certainly significantly larger than 20 megawatts. That's all I was trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Robert Cozen here. How did you locate the 16 solar fields?
There is a monthly survey of all energy production facilities by, I believe it's the EIA. So it's a national survey that's published. So I could be mistaken if there are additional existing solar facilities. Additionally, this is slightly lag time. I think that the last published was in July of this year. So if there have been any additional completed projects, since then, that might not have made it onto the list.
So no source or direction in the real estate market that told you that this was a productive area to look at, to northeast, northwest, and you would be likely to find a solar field in that particular area?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
Well, the ability to locate a solar field was based on a technical journal and not on some type of anecdotal information or direction given to you.
No, this is a national, federally funded database that just compiles all existing solar projects. There's no opinion associated with it. It's just a national database that surveys existing solar projects that have been completed and are operational, not just in McHenry County, but across the United States.
So as yet, none of the experts that you talked to about McHenry County told you or said that particular area is more likely to have solar fields or is known to have solar fields than any other?
No.
And that the possible appearance of that, if it did exist, would be your time to market filter. presumably under your correlation, if an area had a solar field, that would have a longer time to market than another area.
Longer time to market in terms of home being listed on the market.
That is correct.
I don't know if I could make that distinction. We have not found any evidence that being in a market with multiple existing solar farms have been exposed to the market before they have sold or not. We are still finding, homes being next to solar have sold in the same time frame. Whether or not they are in an area where there are lots of solar or just one solar development, at this point, I don't have any evidence that being in an area with a proliferation of existing solar is different than a market with only one solar project.
Or information on a longer time to market than another, you could peel it back to see if there's a solar farm or solar utility within that area.
Correct. I don't have any evidence to suggest that.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, I have no questions on this, but I do have other questions when we get done.
Anybody down at the other end?
Bill?
No.
Wait, you got the mic.
The studies that your company did to determine whether or not there was any negative impact on values did not undertake any statistical analysis. It was purely anecdotal. Is that correct?
That's not a fair representation of the work that we have done. We take a look at actual sale prices that have been recorded and compare that to actual sale prices of control sales that also have been recorded, and we also verify the sale prices directly themselves. We don't make any adjustments to the sale prices as a typical appraiser might do, which you might adjust for size or anything like that, size, year built, or whatever. So we're not making any adjustments to the sale prices. We're just looking at actual sale prices and comparing them to actual sale prices. So it is a data-driven study and not an anecdotal study.
But you didn't, what training or experience do you have in statistical analysis?
I am a licensed real estate appraiser with an MAI designation, the highest designation in the appraisal field. So I don't have any statistical analysis, which is why we rely on the academic studies of statistical analysis to these other academic institutions, where I'm an expert and have all of my training and qualifications is in appraisal and understanding property value. And so that is where my expertise and methodology, the methodology in which we're doing these paired sales analyses is published in the Real Estate Appraisers textbook, Real Estate Damages. And so that is a nationally accepted methodology employed throughout the country by other appraisers. And that is where the methodology to do this particular paired sales analysis comes from.
Okay, so you rely on the academic studies because your company itself has not done specifically any statistical analysis to determine whether or not the price differentials have any statistical significance, correct?
Correct. We look at academic studies for that statistical analysis in which we find no evidence to suggest that property values are impacted. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. But people buying homes don't necessarily rely on statistical analysis. They buy a home because they like where it's located, because they like the kitchen layout, because they like the school district that it's in. So we want to make sure that we're looking at it from real life experiences, what people are actually doing. You know, I hear a lot of times that, you know, if you had a home that was next to solar and a home that wasn't next to solar, which of those two homes would you buy? And so that's the exact scenario in which we are looking at, is comparing one home that is next to solar and one home that isn't, and comparing those two sale prices.
I understand that, but you, the company, has not done any statistical analysis, correct?
Correct. We have not done statistical analysis, and we looked at other statistical analyses performed by other academic institutions.
And as an example, you say you look to people, you look to real-life considerations of individuals?
Yes.
Okay, now the Porter County study that you showed, I believe it was 100 feet from the individual's property line to the fence line?
Correct.
Did you determine whether or not those people bought because they like big yards?
We have compared that to the rest of the homes in the subdivision, and have not isolated the lot size, but that is a consideration to look at. However, I don't know how well you can see on this map, but the solar panels themselves are not extending all the way south to the subdivision. So there are homes that have large lots that are not within that 150 or 100 feet distance to the solar panels. So I would say that there are enough evidence of other homes that have been sold in that particular subdivision that feature similar characteristics of having large lots but are selling for the same price.
It seems to me that at least a lot of those homes, which would be located on the northern half, if you can take into consideration the 100 feet from the property line, that gives them pretty big backyards from a practical matter, correct?
Correct, but you can, I don't know how well you can see, but the solar panels themselves only extend about halfway down that eastern boundary. And then again, to the southern boundary of that subdivision, there are other homes that exhibit similar characteristics in which you mentioned have large lots. So
Okay.
there are examples of homes that have large lots that are being 100 feet away from solar, and homes with large lots that are next to open field.
Aaron, you could go up there and point that out if it would
Well,
make it easier for people.
I see what you're talking about. The solar panels are on the northern, really, half of that property line.
Yeah,
And the southern half of that property line going down,
Yeah.
there's no panels adjacent.
correct.
So we shouldn't consider those, correct? In
No.
your analysis?
We should consider those.
In what ways?
That's the
Because that's what your example is of homes that are next to solar versus homes that are not next to solar. So if they're selling for the same price, under the same qualities of being on large lots, if they're still selling for the same price, then they are similar.
Did they sell for the same price?
Yes,
So the homes on the southern half of that eastern border sold for essentially the same price as the homes on the northern?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Okay. Thank you. And now we'll go on to, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. So, and please use the microphone and introduce yourself again.
Yes, I'm Sarah Skoronsky, environmental scientist with Kimley Horn. I'm just here to answer questions. I don't have anything to present at this moment.
Okay. And you may be asked questions by the audience as well. Okay. Any questions for Sarah on the board? Okay. And I believe there's one question from previous testimony by Mary, right?
At the last meeting, we didn't get into, I think we started to talk about the trees and the arrays. and how many trees are going to be removed along that section in between the two arrays that you have? I know, because I wrote down how large is the clearing area? And when I saw the pictures to this area and that area, it looked like there were two big trees. So I said only two or only a couple trees. And I thought we had talked about getting that information from you on how many trees and what kind of trees you were going to be removing in those areas.
Yes, so I did speak with the property owner, and I have an understanding of what type of woodland presence is there. I can't give you exact.
They're oak groves. They're very important.
Right, the oak groves, and usually within those oak groves, there's a combination of other species.
Correct.
And so, also another thing to consider moving into this process is that this project will have to adhere to all McHenry County ordinances as related to the tree preservation ordinance. And so that requires a tree survey to be completed. It requires the species, the diameter, breast height, as well as the quality. So a lot of these oaks in these regions, they suffer from severe oak wilt. And so that's something, as well as other blight diseases, that could affect the health of the tree. Now, that being said, I couldn't diagnose whether a tree has that or not. And so that's where that tree inventory is very important, and that's why McHenry County requires it. And so when it is moved into further design and there are impacts to those trees, those will be mitigated at the proper ratios according to McHenry County ordinance.
Okay, and to bring it up to today's date, we have received one letter from the village of Bull Valley requesting that some of the panels and the arrays, do you have those letters, that letter?
Yes.
We just received them
Okay.
right before the meeting.
Can we have some assurance, of course, that you are going to try to, or why should we be concerned with avoiding an aided wetland or a FEMA flood zone and the Boone Creek area? I mean, I understand that that's what they're looking for. Is there a reason that you would not take that into consideration when you're doing your final arrays for your areas?
So the aided wetlands that are present through the McHenry County GIS portal that Bull Valley references, those have not been field verified. Some of them have, depending on if there's been development within those areas and they've had boundary verifications performed. But most of these are desktop analyses that identify potential areas where wetlands can be.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean that there is one. And also an advanced, so ADID stands for an advanced ID, and it just is essentially a more refined data set of the National Wetland Inventory that's provided by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
So would getting into those wetland areas be a problem for you putting in your arrays?
So it's also to answer to that, a wetland delineation will have to be performed in order for any type of activity to occur or for further design to be refined. And so once that wetland delineation has been performed, which I'm also a certified wetland specialist with McHenry County, we then proceed to determine the quality of that wetland, the size of the wetland, and the overall ecological benefit to the overall community. And then that is what is brought to McHenry County Stormwater Management Commission when we move into permitting.
Okay, so that's in the stormwater section of future work on this array. I'm concerned because that's 4 to 6 acres, and that's a lot of area to be work with.
Also, with that southern edge, with that flood zone being present, there is a buffer that will be associated with that. And so the flood zone isn't of particular concern with this array design. It's more that aided wetland and those forested areas, as well as the Boone Creek, which Boone Creek won't be impacted by the solar array.
Okay, so what you're actually saying is that this is your initial plan for the arrays that you want to put in, and those can still be affected by other ordinances that you still have to comply with after we get through this process.
Yeah, that's correct. We're
Okay.
avoiding the creek and the FEMA flood zone at the south portion of the array here, and then we understand there's a desktop wetland there, and we're going to go out and field verify what is there.
Okay, and that area in between the two, I believe that you said that it was about 20 feet wide the
Correct,
last time.
yeah.
Are there a lot of trees in that area that will need to be taken back as well? Because it sounded like because of construction and other things, you had to make some changes to what's already there and by taking down more trees.
So, correct, yeah, so that is a forested area with an existing road, which is why we've used that curved
Sure,
shape
no,
there.
I understand, but
And-
do we have oaks in that area, or are they just what kind of trees do we know, or do you already know, or are we concerned? Or they are concerned, I'm sure, but, you know, what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so we are going to remove as few trees as possible there. We haven't done a tree survey, so I don't have the exact species of what is there, but I've walked that road myself. It appears to be about 15, 20 feet wide already. So we don't anticipate removing a lot of trees in that area.
Okay,
How wide does that road have to be?
It has to be about 20 feet.
It has to be 20 feet, and you're already there in most places.
We're already pretty close. I haven't measured it yet, but just walking it and discussing with our landowner, I believe we're close.
So the only trees that would be removed from that center area with the trees is along that path?
Correct, yeah, along the fringe
Not
of the
anything-
existing road. No, everywhere kind of in the remaining forested area that you don't see in red here is expected to remain intact.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? This is Jessica Beverly. So as far as the map goes, anything that's red is removal of trees. And we don't know what kind of trees they are because we haven't done a study. Just to clarify.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cozen.
Bob Cozen here, can't resist the comment of seeing the forest because of the trees, so let me get into it. You had said that you had a conversation with the property owner. Is that correct in terms of your testimony?
It was, yes,
Regarding the
I
tree.
understand the layout of the property and what might be present.
Did you have a conversation with the McHenry County or the Conservation District?
No, I did not.
Did you have an opportunity to read the natural
did.
resource inventory?
Yes.
Then calling your attention to it, the McHenry County Conservation District identifies that the roadway portion is about in an area of 3.37 acres. And that the site plan, and is this still the current site plan, the one dated 6/18/2025?
I don't believe it's 6/18, but the site plan up on the screen is current, and it hasn't changed in the last 2 weeks since we started this meeting.
The site table plan that we have before us, I believe, is 6/18 in terms of the preparation date, but that's different than the slide. At least
Is that different than the slide? If it is, we're going to need an updated plan.
It's the same, isn't it?
No, the one you have on the slide is the current one.
right. An excerpt of the one that was provided to us, which is dated, preparation date was June 18th, 2025. It has no revision or update.
Are you verifying that date?
It's next to your zoning site plan. I
Yeah,
squinted,
correct.
too. All right, just wanted to,
Yeah, make sure we're looking at the same drawing.
right, because that's what the Conservation District focuses their interpretation. And they indicate that through that roadway, there's going to be, their words, remnant oak woodland with tree removal proposed. They go on further to say that they themselves did a walk on July 2nd, 2025, and they identified the existing dirt road as well as along that roadway, multiple old-growth oak trees, shagbark hickories lining the path. And then they shared with us a photo. Do you have any other photo, or we have to rely on the photo of the natural of them?
I do not have other photos of that on hand.
And so you're talking the photos in the NRA report?
Yes.
Yes, I have reviewed them, and I can confidently say that there will be oaks present. The quality of those oaks, though, that is a much different question.
Well, then, to that point, are you familiar with the Oaks of McHenry County, a study done by the
Yes.
Conservation District of
Yes.
2005? And then likewise, pages 76 and 77 as it pertains to Nunda Township?
I can't specifically no to that or that section, but I have reviewed the plan that you're talking about.
And that plan, page 77, shows a detailed overlay by quality of oaks and remnants within Nunda Township?
Again, without having that information in front of me, I would not be able to answer to that question.
That
But,
study,
but I'm sure that the study that you're referring to, is that separate from this NRI report that we're referring to?
it is actually referenced in the NRA report called the McHenry County Conservation District's Remnant Oak Woodland Study.
Yes, so I have reviewed that study. Give me one moment. I would, without having to go through the entire NRI report and then, I don't memorize all of the plans by pages. However, I do understand how to diagnose oak health. I do know, I'm a certified arborist as well, so I do have that designation, and I have the ability to properly assess and bring in those studies when appropriate.
So you would look at page 77 if indeed it pertains to the contemporary condition of woodland trees in Nunda Township.
Correct.
And to determine whether or not that applies, or if it all applies, to this particular property.
Correct.
And you could prepare such an overlay to this?
That is not required through McHenry County tree ordinance preservation, the tree preservation ordinance. What I can provide is a certified arborist health assessment of the oaks, determine if any disease is present, and also assess the lifespan of said tree based off of that health diagnosis.
And yet, are you aware that the information prepared in the Oaks of the McHenry County study was prepared using a graphic information system with an overlay?
Yes, it was produced via ArcGIS, and they have a very detailed statistical analysis of how they incorporate the various surveys that they did, and then bring them all together to correlate and coalesce those into the maps that you are referring to.
And was such a system used in the application of the document that we believe was prepared on June 18th, 2025?
No, because we haven't done the tree assessment yet.
I'm sorry, is the CAD system and the file locations utilized in the preparation of the document of June 18th, 20?
Yes.
So at this time, absence of definitive requirement, the decision is dependent on a photograph taken in the field by the Conservation District determining on the quality of the trees or pending some future review. That's the testimony you have given us.
That is correct.
No further questions.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Okay, then moving on, we will go to public questions. Oh, I thought we did, no, we didn't do staff questions. Oh, look, we got new staff. Anna, do you have any questions?
For the record, we have switched your professional staff this afternoon. I am Anna Kurtzman, senior planner, and no, I do not have any questions at this time.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to public questions. We have a procedure for that. You need to give your name and your address before you ask your question. Your questions will be directed to the petitioners and their testimony only, not to us as the board, not to, any other information that wasn't given during testimony. You'll have 3 minutes to ask your questions. And if you have more questions than you can get in 3 minutes, you may pass your questions on to someone else to ask. If you get up there and your question has already been asked and answered, please do not ask it again. We'd like to get out of here sometime today. We are using a timer, so we will let you know when your time is up. This is all going to be recorded. This is not a trial or anything. This is not a courtroom. However, we do have to follow legal proceedings for this. So please do refrain from making derogatory remarks, yelling at the petitioners, yelling at us, yelling at your neighbor, whatever. Just please be respectful, and we'll go right ahead. Okay, anybody have a question? I'm going to ask you to come up and speak into the microphone. No questions? There's a question. Okay. Boy, I thought I could get by without.
Thank you very much, John Green, 8120 Gage Lane. Is this on?
It doesn't sound like it.
Click the switch up.
Yeah, push it up toward you.
There you go.
Better?
Yep.
There we go. I haven't had my nightclub act for a while. So. Just a quick question for Ms. Bowen, or maybe for Dylan, is that I received from Ben a study that was done by Cornell University regarding property values. And my question is, was that shared with the staff? Was that shared with the committee? And the comment was made about the positive impact on property values. But Ms. Bowen, are you aware on the first page that they say that these reduce residential property values within 3 miles by about 4.8%. And then on page 3 of the Cornell study, it says the view-specific distance decay results show that proximity is the major driver of the negative residential value impact. We find that without this view, proximity reduces residential sales prices by up to 7.2% within a half-mile radius. So your testimony earlier was that there's no negative impact. I was questioning whether or not this study was submitted, why it was not listed up on the board, and whether or not you're aware of the comments from Cornell University. This is dated September 10th of 24 and accepted on April 24th of 2025.
Would you mind bringing that study over to me? I think I know which one you're talking about, but I want to verify.
I received this from your attorney.
Yeah, okay. The study that you're referencing is actually published not by Cornell. I think what you're referring to is edited by somebody from Cornell. It was published by Virginia Tech. And I can spend a couple of moments addressing the claims of the study and the results. It was listed on the presentation that I provided earlier, but it was Virginia Tech. The study does look at transactions across the United States. They bifurcate the groups of properties that they look at between single-family residential homes on large lots and agricultural land. The results show that on single-family residential, there is a negative 4.8% decrease that they point out. However, on large lot residences, there was no impact, statistically no impact. And then on the agricultural land, there was a positive 19.4% increase to the agricultural land transactions. So within the study itself, there are differences in results. Further, the study, I think, sir, if you would refer to page 5 if you're looking at the printout directly. it takes a look at different situations, rural, urban, big lot, small lot, also regions in the country, the Northeast, South, West, and Midwest. And on that graph on page 5, you'll see that that horizontal line is 0%. There's no change. And then the difference between the different regions are either above, at, or below the line. And so the Midwest is actually a slightly positive impact. So the study finds that homes within the Midwest actually have a small positive impact to the adjacent property values. So this is one particular study that has a lot of mixed results. So it's one piece of the puzzle, one piece of evidence. I talked about the other study, the Loyola study. There's also the University of Rhode Island study, and there is the Berkeley National Lab study. You know, some of the studies have results that might show a small negative impact in some situations. They also have no impact or a slight positive impact, but it's not conclusively across the board that the evidence is showing that there is a negative impact. And so we just use this as one piece of evidence amongst all of our research. If we were finding that all of the evidence was showing a consistently negative across the board, then we would feel confident that there is more investigation, that there is a negative impact. But if none of the studies have conclusively across the board have shown negative impact, then we look at it as just one piece of evidence and try to understand what that particular research is saying.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
partly.
And I'm going to let you have another question because that was a very lengthy answer.
No, thank you very much. Well, the other comment, I think Mr. Cozen kind of got into this, is that you said with the 16 solar farms in McHenry County, you didn't find any sales to measure, but then it's said that you don't have a reason to conclude there's no effect, but with no sales, there could be an effect. So in other words, I didn't understand how you reached that conclusion when you said we had no sales to consider within with this pool of 16 solar farms.
I just wanted to highlight that we have done this paired cells analysis 40 times across the country in Illinois, but I don't have any specific examples in specifically McHenry County. And so the evidence that I presented was to show you why I don't have any specific examples in McHenry County. But based off of our other 40 studies in other counties throughout Illinois that have not shown any evidence, we don't feel like there is a reason to suspect that McHenry County itself would have any negative impact by being just specifically in McHenry County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mike Bergen, 6311 Bull Valley Road. If you look at that up there, I'm that little tiny dot way down at the bottom in the long, narrow piece of property, right here. Right there. Which is, I'm closer to the panels than those two guys are, which is interesting, I found. Ms. Bowen, are you licensed in the state of Illinois as an appraiser?
I am not licensed in the state of Illinois itself. I hold licenses in 7 other states, and I have an MAI designation, which is a nationally
we know
recognized.
that. You're eating my time up.
I'm sorry.
What states are you licensed in rapidly here?
Arizona, Iowa, Nevada, California, Oregon, Texas, and New Mexico.
All of which are a little more progressive than Illinois, aren't they?
The reports that we have prepared are co-authored by Andrew Lines, who is licensed in Illinois.
Okay, and in your studies, it was interesting that you talked about Virginia Tech, 3-mile radius, and I won't repeat that, but 4.8%. Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, Minnesota, which is 4% decline. North Carolina, 5.8. New Jersey, 5.6, all declines. Extrapolating that, they went on to say agriculture and applied economics within a half mile. I'm 150 feet from it. Within a half mile, we've got 7.2. Within 3 miles, we've got 4.8. I mean, I could go on and on. LSU, Central Florida, 750 meters, which is a half mile, saw 6.9 decrease. So just, put it in perspective. Let's talk.
You talk into the mic, that's what's recording.
Put it
And
in-
keep
in-
it to the questions, please.
I'm sorry, okay, all right.
Comments later.
Which home would you build? This is my view from my back door. Which, would you buy this one?
Okay, that's not a
Or
question
would you
that
buy
should be
this one?
answered here today.
I mean, what's a question? Would you
It's
buy this
not a
one?
question for this hearing.
Okay,
We're actually trying to focus on the testimony that was given and the facts of the hearing.
okay. All right, then I'll move to another one, which has to do with a whole nother category that was discussed 2 weeks ago. And everyone asked questions over here, but we never got a chance to do that. And it has to do with zoning. Can I start another 3 minutes?
I'm sorry, what? What's your question?
2 weeks ago, you guys were able to ask questions at the very end, and then it was turned off. We didn't get to ask any questions.
Because we ran out of time.
I know. So now I'm wanting to
So
take that
ask your
time.
question, you're losing your own time here.
No, well, I could have asked that last week if we didn't run out of time. And it's on a different subject. On a different, okay, real quick. Up on the top, on the other side of Bull Valley Road, we were told that this is all primarily agriculture. That's not true. North of Bull Valley Road,
Is this a question?
how is the property, Dylan, north of Bull Valley Road zoned? How is the 98 acres north of Bull Valley Road zoned?
So, thanks, Mike. I don't have the exact zoning offhand, but I understand that there's a future residential development going in there.
It's zoned, I've got it written down, but I'll forget. It's basically zoned for medium-sized, single-family homes. 100%.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, the timer went off, I was telling you.
Oh.
What's the difference between Ag 1 and Ag 2?
Okay, your time is up, but I will answer your question. Ag 1 is farmland.
Right.
Ag 2 is farmland that has been taken out with a house and buildings on it, 5 acres or less.
Okay, that's
the difference.
well, that's not accurate, but that's okay, because.
Okay, your time is up, sir.
Well,
Are there
then
any
now
other
because I
questions?
disagree with what you just said, and my
Are
time's
there
up.
any other
No, the
questions?
timer went off, you get 3 minutes.
Ag 2 is a step between.
Sir, please.
Ag 1
Please sit
and
down and be
residential.
quiet.
All these are residential.
Can you
around
call
this.
security, please?
Why do they get an hour and 10
I'm sorry, we would like to get out of here today. Everybody has questions. Let's make time for people to have questions.
This is our whole life.
Yeah.
Catherine Bergen, 6311 Bull Valley Road. We live directly next door to the Sincere property. My question to Dylan Haber is these 12,000 panels are susceptible to weather such as hail, lightning, both direct and indirect. Direct strikes can melt components, and power surges from indirect hits. On August 18th, the tornado sirens went off, and our property is surrounded by these panels. What is your plan on keeping residents safe? And I'd like to see your documentation.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, so we abide by all local and national codes in terms of securing the panels. They're well engineered to be secured to the ground. They're well tested in the laboratory, and they will meet all codes and standards.
So a direct hit from lightning won't melt components and leach out chemicals into the soil?
The panels are not known to leach any components into the soil.
With the lightning strike?
I can't comment on a
And
lightning
a
strike.
tornado, tornado, you know, in a tornado situation, I'd much rather be hit by corn stalks than wires, electricity, and glass. So what's your plan?
The plan is to follow the codes and to ensure that they are secured to
Can
the
I see your
ground.
documentation on that?
I am happy to provide that as a follow-up. I don't have the full engineering plans here because they've not been completed, but I'm
Okay.
happy to follow up with you and provide whatever documentation regarding the securement of panels.
Do you
that-
have any information on the effects of the humming sounds that the transformers and inverters will emit on a constant basis with horses? Because we do have horses, and they're right up against your facility.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah,
do you have
I-
any scientific information on that whatsoever? Because they have a very sensitive sense of hearing.
So I know we personally discussed the effects of noise when we met a few weeks ago at your property, and as I mentioned then, I'll say the same thing now, that
Don't know. That's what you said.
Can I answer the question?
Sure.
Yeah, so as I mentioned last time, that the inverters are located far away. We try to locate them at the center of the property to minimize any potential impacts to anyone. But the inverters and the transformers you're right, have a very low hum that exists.
All day, all night.
And it is equivalent to roughly your dishwasher at about 30 feet away.
So instead of
So
going
you're-
out and listening to nature, I'm going to hear humming 365
Let him
days a year.
answer.
So
Please.
you're much farther than 30 feet away from there. So according to our studies, at the edge of your property, you won't be hearing anything.
Okay, time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Good afternoon. Cindy Skirkrud, 4209 West Solon Road. I have three questions. I'll ask the first and then wait for your answers. Why couldn't the solar array be designed to minimize impacts to native trees as Site Design Standard E requires? There is no explanation in your application on anything you have done to minimize impacts. We hope that any necessary tree destruction mitigation be limited to the center access lane. Would you work with local groups like the Boone Dutch Creek Watershed Alliance for mitigation to be done nearby within the Boone Creek watershed? That's two questions. At the south end of the property, will the project footprint stay out of the county's 2030 plan environmentally sensitive area and green infrastructure network? Question 3, and I'll wait for your answers.
Anybody?
So these are preliminary designs. So the current array system does propose some tree removals down in that southeast corner where you see some red. And those are more than likely, again, I have not performed a tree survey, or there has not been one done. But they're more than likely not part of that oak woodland that is which bifurcates the design. That being said, I can't answer to specifically working with your Boone Creek or your Boone Creek watershed group. However, I know that there is plans for at least mitigating the proper ratios according to ordinances and adhering to any conservation plan that has implications towards permitting and mitigation. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, I'm going to take the answer and go on. So my next question was avoiding the 2030 plan environmental sensitive area and green infrastructure network.
So without having that plan in front of me, I don't know exactly what area that you're specifying to. Is there a way that you could outline which portion of the study area that was
Certainly the plan environmentally sensitive area was in the materials for the board
Cindy,
packet.
Could you point it out on the screen?
I haven't. Here's a map that shows you the green infrastructure.
I see. So it's mostly relegated to that southern portion of the study area. The designs currently stay out of the Boone Creek. There will be no impacts to Boone Creek and the associated flood zone with them.
Oh, okay, this goes way beyond that, this environmentally sensitive area. Am I, and I've lost my time?
Yeah, your time is up. If you have more questions, you can pass them on to someone else to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Dale Morin, 6703 Bull Valley Road. First question's for Dylan. Where are these solar panels manufactured?
So we, at this point, we're still early in the design and have not chosen a specific panel or procured them at this point. As much as we can, we are aiming to buy American domestically manufactured panels. That is not always necessarily available, and we do have to sometimes look abroad, often to Southeast Asian countries, which have higher manufacturing capacity for the panels. But as I mentioned, there's been a big push over the last few years to create certain manufacturing capacity within the United States. There's been a number of plants that have opened up in Ohio, in the Carolinas, and in Georgia. And as much as we can, the priority is to procure panels from those areas.
Okay, that could be our hope, because as we know, most panels are built in China, correct? The majority right now that are sold in the United States.
I'll give you the same answer, is that there is an American manufacturing
So can there be a
that's
provision that, you know, within your budget that we can try, and I think you just said that we can try to get American-made panels if this was to go through?
So our preference is to, again, buy manufactured panels that are manufactured here in the United States.
My only other question is for all 5 of you guys that are representing the power company right now. Do any of you guys live by anywhere near a solar farm?
It's not in testimony, sir.
Okay.
We do have to stick with the testimony that's been given.
Understand. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Thank you. My name is Susan Robertson. I reside at 6601 West Bull Valley Road in McHenry. I've lived there for 38 years. My property is directly adjacent to the subject property located at 6417 West Bull Valley Road. Our properties are separated only by a driveway, which runs alongside the entire eastern edge of my property, extending approximately 900 feet to the south. My residence is approximately 20 feet from the property line and is less than 50 feet from an existing cornfield on the subject property. My question is, and I would have asked this if anyone had ever contacted me personally, but they have not, exactly how far from my property line will the installation of this solar equipment be located?
Thank you for your question. I apologize. I actually tried to call you a number of times and did not find the right number, it seems. I also came and knocked on your door one day and you
were
weren't
there one
home.
time knocking on the door, but I was not home, and
Yes.
no other attempt was ever
And
made.
I apologize for that, and records around phone numbers are not perfect, and I did try several numbers, but I apologize for actually not making contact with you. In terms of your question around the distance from the edge of your property line, we're complying with the setbacks, which are required to be a minimum of 50 feet from the edge of a property line, and I should say 150 feet from the edge of a residence on a neighboring property. So if you look up at the plan up there, we've got, I believe it's, this one is your home, or this one here?
Yes.
And so we've drawn a 150-foot buffer around that, and there will be no panels in that 150-foot buffer. And in addition to that, you can see we've planted we've included a row of trees right there as visual screening, so that, you know, if you look out your window, you'll see a row of trees rather than panels.
Well, that was my other question. What kind of a barrier, visual and physical, would be there, because this is literally, I mean, my back door is here, and at that wall where, that's how far I am from the property. So you said 150 feet?
It'll be 150 feet from the edge of your residence, yes.
Okay, so what kind of barrier are we talking about?
Yeah, so I went through that last time. I'm not sure if you're here. Are we able to just scroll? I think it's a couple of slides away to show the proposed vegetative buffer. But
I do recall some mention of chain link fencing, which is not, that's not an acceptable barrier between my property and.
No, so it's an agricultural style fence that has a row about 8 feet off of that of evergreen trees that'll be thicker, and then in front of that we're proposing kind of infill of deciduous and shrub type trees. So the intention is that you won't really see the fence or the panels at all.
And how long do we anticipate it will be before these shrubs and trees are of a significant enough size to actually create a barrier?
Yeah, so we have the.
Quickly, I think she's trying to get on the screen, but unfortunately I have a.
You know what, I have it here.
But, can you, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not able to scroll.
This is the row. These are the row of trees with the deciduous in front, and you can see the overhead view here.
Mhm.
And we can get you a copy of this as well.
Okay, all right. I guess that's it as far as the
Okay,
question
thank
at
you.
this point.
Oh, yeah, finally got it up.
That is the same.
Sorry.
Nicer color than my black.
Any other questions? Please step forward. Oops, two more.
Hi, my name is Scott Puma. It's P-U-M-A. I'm at 101 North Main Street in Crystal Lake. And my question is for Ms. Bowen. I just want to make sure I understood your testimony correctly, that there were no transactions of adjacent home sales for near the 16 projects in McHenry County?
There were no sales of homes next to the 16 projects in McHenry County that we felt were appropriate to study. I mentioned that there were a couple of transactions that were adjacent rail lines. And I think that there was another transaction that was over 1,000 feet away that was also next to a high school and a football field. So we wouldn't feel that by studying those particular transactions would isolate the influence of the solar, because the nature of being next to a rail line could be a detrimental impact to property values. So we couldn't necessarily isolate that. So we didn't find any transactions after the sale or after the construction of solar facilities in McHenry County that we felt were appropriate to study.
So there were 3 transactions? I just want to understand what you said, because that's a little bit different. You didn't say anything before about high school. So there were 3 transactions, but you didn't think they were appropriate analysis. Is that what your testimony is?
Yes, my testimony is that I think that there were in total 5 transactions, but that they were not appropriate to study because they were also potentially located next to other influences in addition to solar. So we did not do a full paired sales analysis because we wouldn't be able to isolate the potential impact between rail line and then the example of the football field. And in addition, it was over 1,000 feet away, so it's not sufficiently close to the solar panels.
So 1,000 feet, that's much more than the buffer that we were just talking about with neighbors, right? And that's only 150 feet. So 1,000 feet, that's not appropriate. So you don't have anything that's close. Were there any that were listed for sale?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you look?
Yes.
And you didn't find any?
No.
How about commercial or agricultural property? Any listed for sale?
Not to my knowledge.
Any sold?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you look?
Yes, we did look.
Okay, so the answer is no, not to your knowledge, it's no, right?
We did look. I couldn't say, without a shadow of a doubt.
Did you look or did somebody else?
My associate, Joe Fisness, looked.
So you didn't look for any sales?
I personally did not look. However, I have looked in McHenry County in the past. I did look or I had my associate Joe look yesterday to make sure that my statements would be accurate. But I personally looked in the past, but
When?
Within the last year.
In preparation for this your testimony
If you
today?
have further questions, you can pass them
Not
on to
necessarily in
someone else.
preparation of this testimony, but just in my general research of solar.
Thank you. One more, sir, in the back.
Hello, my name is Mike Gallery. I live at 7911 Bennington Court in Bull Valley. I have two questions, please, both brief. First, if I read this analysis correctly, this is potentially a $7 million project. If that's correct, my first question is, why don't you have a clear idea of the inventory of trees on the property and which ones will be lost? Why haven't you invested the time and money to have that information for those of us who have strong feelings about the preservations of oaks? Second, the SWCD report says that the chance of ponding is greater than 50% every year on the southern part of the site. What is your experience in installing arrays in such wet soils? How stable will the arrays be under such wet conditions? Thank you.
So for these types of projects, I've been part of several at this point. The tree inventory does not come usually until after the special use permit or whatever type of zoning needs to be done. That comes after. And second, the priority of old growth oaks are of priority to this project. The only reason one would be removed, and particularly for the roadway, would be if it was obstructing the construction or if it was of poor health that was also associated with the construction activity. No other oaks will be removed. That southern portion of the area that had some of the tree removals, again, without having that tree survey, and again, that's not something that's usually done until phase, I don't know the correct engineering term, but there's phase one where it's a preliminary designing, and then we go into phase two where we're actually trying to nail out the final design. And that's where the tree surveys, the wetland inventories, all of these different ecological surveys come into play. That's when I normally enter the scene.
All right, and then my other question was about ponding on the southern part and how stable these installations can be under those conditions.
Yeah, I can take that one. Thanks for the question. In terms of the sequence of these projects, generally we get through this zoning initially, and then we go out and do the more in-depth environmental analysis. We are going to be complying with all stormwater management ordinance requirements here. We'll be doing, as we mentioned earlier, a wetland delineation, a pretty intensive soil study, some subsurface geotechnical investigations as well to understand those subsurface conditions. And once we get all those kind of deeper engineering reports in, we'll do the deeper engineering analysis to understand what sort of subsurface foundations and piles are required to ensure that the project remains stable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Okay. In that case, we will move on to the staff report. Anna? Yeah, 3 o'clock. As soon as she's done, we're out of here.
Again, for the record, my name is Anna Kurtzman. I'm a senior planner for McHenry County. The current property has a combination zoning of A1 and A2. Property to the north is primarily within the city limits of McHenry. There is a little bit of A1 that's a little bit to the northeast of the subject property. To the south is Village of Bull Valley, and to the east and to the west is A1 and A2. To the west, there's also an A2V. And that V was for a variance for lot frontage. Surrounding land use is primarily agricultural with some single-family residence. There is some MCCD agricultural located to the southwest of the subject property. The future land use designation has the property primarily listed as estate. There is some isolated, or excuse me, not isolated, but environmentally sensitive area to the southern portion of the property. If I recall how Ms. Charlo ends her presentation, she does indicate that on January 27th of 2023, the state of Illinois passed Public Act 103-1123, which was further modified under Trailer Bill PA 103-0580 on December 8th of 2023. And those documents state that a request for a conditional use permit for a commercial solar energy facility shall be approved if the request is in compliance with the standards and conditions imposed within the act, the zoning ordinance adopted consistent with this code, and the conditions imposed under state and federal statutes and regulations. A county may not adopt zoning regulations that disallow commercial solar energy facilities from being developed or operated in any district zone to allow agriculture or industrial uses. The county did update our Unified Development Ordinance to comply with that state requirement.
Thank you. Okay, I think what we're going to do now, well, does the board have any questions for staff? Okay. Go ahead, Bob.
I recognize, Bob Cozen here, I recognize we have a comment from Bull Valley. Did we get a comment from the city of McHenry?
I'm not aware of a letter from them.
And there was a reference to a mitigation landscape formula. Is that anything that you could provide us? Admittedly, you're substituting right now, and I didn't know.
You're hitting me cold.
I know, and I apologize.
So I cannot provide that for you, but if this hearing is continued, I'm certain we can provide that information.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. In that case, we're going to take a short break. We do have to be out of this building by 4:30, so we'll take a 5-minute break right now and try and wrap up as much as we can following that. Okay, let's carry on with the fun. Okay, now it's time for public comments. Again, we're going to follow the same procedure. You'll have 3 minutes. Please be respectful. Please. Why are you smiling? Okay. Okay, we're just going to be civil here. You'll have 3 minutes to make your state your case, and then we will move on from there. So anybody like to make a public comment regarding this petition and the testimony that's been given? Again, you need to state your name and your address.
My name is Jill Howard. I live at 6611 Bull Valley Road. I don't normally get up and do this, but this is my home. This is where we live. When we had a choice to find a home, we chose this place because it was like out in the country, but close enough to town. You can choose anywhere to live, next to a school, next to a train. Never in my wildlife did I ever say, I want to find a home that's next to solar panels. And yet, now I don't have a choice. And I also have horses, and I'm worried. And they say it's the hum of a dishwasher, but you don't run your dishwasher 24/7. This is going to be something we'll hear all the time. And unbeknownst to me and a lot of other people, I did not realize that you as a board cannot say no because of Pritzker. But my question is how many of these would not have passed if that wasn't the case? Just because you have no choice doesn't make it right. And this doesn't belong there. And I'm sorry if you seem to be annoyed because we want to go home, but my question is, how many of you guys get to go home to a house that doesn't live next to a solar panel?
Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Screwcrude, 4209 West Solon Road, president of the Boone Dutch Creek Watershed Alliance. Our alliance wants to see any project in our watershed done in a manner that also protects and preserves our water and natural resources. That includes streams, wetlands, native woods, and our groundwater, McHenry's sole source of drinking water. I asked Pebble Solar to comply with Site Design Standard E, which says the facility shall be situated as to minimize impacts to woodlands, savannas, wetlands, drainage tiles, and encroachment into floodplains. Please revise your site plan to avoid the site's wetlands. Wetlands serve flooding, water quality, and habitat functions that we do not want to lose, especially with the high-quality Boone Creek down gradient at the south end of the property. Our watershed is known for its beautiful oak and hickory woods. Please scale back your arrays to preserve these majestic old trees. Your plan calls for tree removal at many spots along the edge of the property, so they could easily be saved, and you would be a better neighbor to adjoining homeowners by leaving that screening. The both wet and wooded area at the southeast end of the site should be wholly avoided. I know that this area is part of the county's green infrastructure network, an integrated system meant to remain natural. We ask that you work with Alliance on any tree mitigation required for minor tree loss in the center of the property to be mitigated within the Boone Creek watershed. Given the features of the property and its location in an area planned for estates, we believe the design of this development should follow the county's conservation design guidelines. We note that this parcel definitely meets the standard of 20% of the site having the following features requirement for conservation design. They are wetlands, floodplain and flood of record, woodlands and savannas based on on-site determination, soils reflecting highly erodible slopes, soils identified as hydric soils, aquifer recharge areas on the SARA map, green infrastructure areas identified in the McHenry County Green Infrastructure Plan. To the ZBA, as we're now seeing a number of solar farm requests like this one coming in with plans to impact our county's rare old woodlands, it's high time that McHenry County develop a tree protection ordinance. We also request the ZBA not close the record on this conditional use while a tree inventory and wetland delineation remain undone. It is not fair to the Boone Creek watershed residents for the ZBA to approve this destructive site plan and leave us wondering what decisions will be made later behind closed doors. Please delay your vote on the site plan until a wetland delineation has been completed and you have actual facts to ensure you are following your own rules that require developments to have minimal impacts to wetlands and woods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to repeat my address?
Yes.
My address?
And your name?
Catherine Bergen, 6311 Bull Valley Road. I'd like to discuss impacts to my property. If and when this gets built, will vastly decrease the enjoyment of my property, my land, and the quality of my life. The view shed. Picture living next to black panels versus agricultural green space. Impact to wildlife. Recently, I observed a short-eared owl in my backyard, which is now endangered in Illinois. And if you touch this watershed and clear-cut those beautiful, big, huge trees, I won't see that bird anymore. Construction impact for, what did they say, 4 months? Sound, noise, crews, dust. If there's a lot of dust, I have a hayfield that feed a lot of horses, not only my own. Watershed and runoff to Boone Creek will happen. These panels are impermeable, especially the massive downpours we get. We just got one, a couple of them in August. And the wetlands. We have to protect our wetlands. They're just too important. Now, field management, replacement of damaged panels, and what's the inspection process on this? Maintenance schedule and plan, documentation we need. Soil impacts and reclamation difficulties, risk of abandonment or poorly maintained facilities if ownership is changed. Environmental impacts include chemicals within the panels if broken, tree cover removed, that's number 1, 2. Wildlife habitat destruction and migration patterns. These panels have a reflection that mimics water and has killed tens of thousands of migrating birds, and we live on a flyway in Bull Valley. It's called the lake effect. They think it's water, and also lure them into artificial grounds. And according to the federal migration treaty, these utilities can be prosecuted and fined for the death of native birds. Community impact simply means changing the agriculture and rural character of McHenry County. That's why everybody lives here. Ongoing loss of productive agricultural land is massive right now. These solar fields are popping up all over McHenry County. And the summary is, this is a crazy place to put a solar field, squeezed in between residences, and residents have the right and deserve the right to live in peace and safety. Thank you.
John Green, 8120 Gage Lane in Cary, Illinois. I would ask that you continue this hearing until the applicants provide the information that they have not provided. Obviously, there's wetland studies that have not been done, tree surveys that have not been done. There's clearly conflicting information on these market studies related to the impact of solar on property values. They've provided a report. Clearly, there's reports that contradict that. I think the county should do an independent analysis to see what's right. I annexed into McHenry up to the north, the Shamrock Farm development 25 years ago. It took us about 2 years. We had to submit tons of reports, tree surveys, wetland studies, traffic studies. I mean, that's a private road there. I don't know who's maintaining that road. If they plan to access the property from that road, to the neighbors to discuss, I guess. But we didn't get a chance to go and get our land use set and worry about the details later, which is basically what these people are doing. And I think that's a lousy way to do business. I don't think it's fair. I'm not telling you to turn them down, because I know the state's attorney has told you you can't turn them down because we'll get sued. But you can continue this hearing until they provide the necessary information. Finally, you asked about if McHenry had provided a letter of any kind. I had lunch with Doug Martin, the Economic Development Director of McHenry, on Tuesday. He had never seen the staff report or the site plan on this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shaylin Sincere, and my husband and I are the owners of 6415 Bull Valley Road, where what everyone's talking about. I wanted to let the board know we are in approval of the solar farm on our property. We also had concerns, like our neighbors, about what it would impact our community, but after speaking with Dylan and praying about it a lot, we came to the decision that it would be beneficial way to utilize our land. Change can be difficult, but embracing new opportunities is how communities thrive. The tax revenue that it would give our local schools would keep our community property taxes low while still investing in our schools and children. These solar farms also lower the cost of electricity with cleaner energy. This is why Illinois supports the development of solar farms. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? One more.
Chris Biggis, 6517 Bull Valley Road, the other piece of property that is included in this. I've lived there my whole entire life. In fact, planted many of the trees other than the oaks that were there before me. But anyway, with the changing times, I've looked, different directions on how I was going to be able to utilize my little piece of land there. And long before this came about, I had looked into solar. So for me, it was something I had already done some research into. Of course, when they came to me with this, I had a long list of questions, which included, once again, the buffers and everything to the neighbors, because it was a concern of mine. But once again, as the farmland dwindles, it seemed to me like a good direction to go with houses moving in around where that keeps coming up, and to supply them with power. Since the cornfields are diminishing, they're getting to the point where guys don't even have the equipment to farm the small pieces of land anymore. So that was what made me for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, Mike Bergen, 6311 Bull Valley Road. Apologize for earlier, by the way. Just to put this into perspective, this is the property, mostly mine, is where remember the snowy owl story? This is the area that the snowy owl chose to stay at before he got hit by a car. And the reason he chose to stay there was because of the abundance of food and the nearby waterway. And he came back every day until he was hit by that car. The same thing goes on every day there. We live in this area. In fact, the old listing sheet from when the primary owner bought that piece of property called it a sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary. So they were buying a wildlife sanctuary. And it is that, because it can't be built upon behind my house in the southeast portion of the land. In fact, I've been there 20 years, and just a year after the house was 5 years old when I bought it. Chris and his brother built it. A year after I was there, I went to get a permit for an outbuilding, and I was informed that the house would no longer be able to be built where it is currently located because the soils are inadequate. The soils of the hydrox, or whatever you guys call it, can't support the foundation. So as a result, when there's heavy rain at my house, when it comes down fast, my sump pump runs nonstop, 24 hours a day for days because of these soils. So I'm very concerned about the runoff from this water and need to ask if there's some kind of guarantee that I can get that my house won't become a swimming pool in the basement once these panels are in place. Because all I read about is ponding and various other runoff problems. So that's a major concern of mine. The other thing has to do with how close they are to our homes. You know, you've heard the term country mile. A country mile is a long distance. 150 feet to these guys from Chicago is, you know, that's like huge. To us, it's nothing. That's a stone's throw. I can spit that far, and I do frequently.
Good to know.
Huh? I gotta stop doing it. Can I show these pictures now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, of you spitting, no.
I won't. Well, no, that's my view. That's the view. That's the view I paid a ton of money for to buy my dream house. And that's going bye-bye. That's gonna be replaced by the other one. I found a good one too here, by the way. So I don't know if I brought it up here. Yeah, I didn't bring it up here, and it's just as well. But that'll be my new view. So there we go. So I guess I think that this thing needs to be significantly tailored back. The offsets need to be drastically increased if you go ahead with it. I think the whole back should be eliminated because there's a lot of. No one mentioned there's lots of oaks. Chris knows like he said.
Okay, your time is up, but thank you
Oh,
for
there's a
your
time thing?
comments.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And don't spit.
Dale Moran, 6703 Bull Valley Road. I'm not sure it's even been addressed or if you guys are aware that there is a pipeline that runs across the corner of the property line. My house is, I'm up here, but I own this piece right here. And Enbridge owns a pipeline that runs all the way down here. And Chris's dad wouldn't allow them to build it on the property, so they ran a dogleg around the back corner of their property to get around it. And I'm not sure if that has any environmental impact, but I'll tell you what does have, it's been mentioned about the Boone Creek corridor and all that. The whole back section of that property is probably going to get eliminated because I think the Army Corps of Engineers, and it's all down the line, if you approve this, which I'm recommending you postpone the vote again, because we do not have the information we need to protect the environment. I'm repeating myself with everybody else that I've lived here since 1990. I didn't buy property near a solar farm, and I don't know anybody that does. I talked to real estate agents, and they said, we've never sold a property by one, which one lady said, I probably never will. So it doesn't matter what the studies across the state say. This is actually just about a half a mile down from the Bull Valley proper, which is like the gateway of gold. Bobby Hull owned a house when I was a kid back in there, short period of time. It's a very historic and rich area, which you are aware of. But, and also, Nunda Township, which Madam Chairman is representing, they came onto my property with the assessor the other day, and they're searching for farms that are no longer farming. I also have hay fields, which feed cattle and stuff, and I'm not sure the environmental impact of hay with a solar farm. I know it raises the temperature. There's just so much about this that we don't know yet, and I'm asking you to postpone the vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then we'll move on. Do you have a closing statement? Anybody?
Thank you, Rick.
Pull it towards you.
Thank you very much. Both in the interest of time, et cetera, I'm going to try and keep this quick, but I also want to provide some comfort, hopefully, on some of the questions that have been raised. First and foremost, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the community being here. It's an important part of this process. As you can tell, Dylan has been out working with the community, and we will continue that process throughout this. We believe that in our application, those of you who have looked at it know, there is a line-by-line confirmation of compliance with each and every one of your standards. We're also in compliance with each and every one of the state standards that are here for this. It's done as a checklist, so you don't have to take our word for it. You can go through and see those. Rather than going through each of those, I'm just going to incorporate our narrative response in there, again, for time purposes. I did want to say there were some great concerns about how we would handle vegetation, landscape, your tree ordinance. This approval is critically important from the ZBA and from the county board, but we are still obligated and will meet your vegetation, landscape, and tree ordinances, and including the required time in those ordinances for when those plans get submitted. And that's an important thing that's been brought up a number of times here. This county, along with, and by the way, I know when my colleague represented himself, he also mentioned that he's also worked with governmental entities. I represented both developers and governmental entities. And every governmental entity I'm aware of has times when different things are required. You don't require final engineering work to be done when we're trying to get a zoning done. And I'm saying as much, I know this board knows this, but I'm saying this in part for the people who I apologize my back is to. But we will be in compliance with all of those, and we're subject to having those approved. That's, I would say, one of those, just a great example, a concern about water being in someone's basement. You have a very strong stormwater ordinance, stormwater management ordinance. We're required to be compliant with that, and your building department, your staff takes those final engineering plans and won't allow us to build unless we show that we're in compliance. So all of those types of things will be there. I would say similarly, the Enbridge pipeline, which I'll admit I'm not aware of, my clients may be. But if there's an Enbridge pipeline easement that affects this property and there are applicable requirements for it, even though that's not a governmental thing, we're subject to the easements that are our property. So we'll have to also meet with those. I really loved hearing the comments from the property owners here. These are not people who took this lightly. They clearly took the time to consider this use on their property and to consider what that impact would be. And I think it's very, very appropriate that they want to see that use there and that they've gone through that. Again, I'm trying to get through just a number of these comments here. The environmentally sensitive area that was identified, essentially which follows the floodplain. You can tell from our map that we took that into account when drawing that map, but as important, it will also be considered as part of that final engineering as we will comply with all the requirements for wetlands. On noise, quickly, only because I know this board has heard this before and they know this, but we are required by your codes and by the state to be in compliance with all the Illinois Pollution Control Board requirements. And remember that noise he was talking about is on our property because we place it in the middle so that it's not impacting other properties. And also someone made the comment, and I just wanted to say it because sometimes people don't think about it, about this being 24/7 as we sound at night. It's a solar farm. There is no operation on this site at night. So that's not an issue at all. The last is that, sorry, I had one more on this. Oh, the last was just, again, to indicate, just because of the concern there, that as critically important as this review is, I know that every one of you, because you've done this before, knows that we also have to meet all of your other requirements. We have to meet your stormwater requirements, your noise requirements, et cetera. That doesn't change today. The only difference is that, like almost every other use, there's a time when we're required to answer zoning questions and to show that we're in compliance with your ordinance and the state law, and we're at a time when we're required to meet your building code and other ordinances. Thank you very much. We're happy to respond to any other questions you may have. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I request recognition.
Go right ahead.
For the record, my name is Jessica Beverly, and I'm making a motion to continue this hearing pending the completion of a wetland delineation study and a tree study. If I can get a second, I would like to open it for discussion.
I'll second.
Thank you. I understand your closing statement, and I understand your opinion on how the process works. Pursuant to Public Act 102, 1123, and 1030580, we have to open this hearing, and we have to have the hearing. Pursuant to our UDO, Section 1660302E2, we have to approve a site plan under the conditions for this hearing that is consistent with the June 18th, 2025 site plan that's in the record. And we are required to show that the facility shall be situated as to minimize impacts to woodlands, savannas, wetlands, drainage tiles, and encroachment into floodplains. It's a testimony of the petitioner that no wetland delineation study has been done, and this is merely a desktop review, but that this GIS data is overwhelmingly what we use to decide. It is a testimony of the petitioner that we have a robust stormwater management ordinance. And while I agree with that, I do not feel comfortable approving the site plan as designed, consistent with the conditions proposed by staff, pending, unless we have a wetland delineation study and a tree study.
Madam Chair, if I could comment?
Go right ahead.
First, Jess, I looked at it before. Is this properly a motion to postpone and set a date?
I think, well, excuse me, can I use the mic? Yes, of course. I'm not going to set a date certain because it's pending some action on behalf of the petitioner, and I would leave it up to the petitioner to propose a date to continue to. I'm not sure how long these studies take.
I would like to comment on the motion. First, as far as a wetland delineation study, under the application, what I'm looking at under paragraphs PP, it says that they submit threatened and endangered species consultation. They shall submit a site plan and all other application submittal requirements outlined in the Planning and Development Department zoning application packet. I don't believe a wetland delineation is required in the application. So to require them to go through whatever the expense is or burden of in fact, a wetland delineation submission, I think goes beyond what they are required to provide. However, I agree with you, and what I would just like to emphasize is subparagraph E says that the facility shall be situated so as to minimize impacts to wetlands and delineations. It doesn't say that it should be located so that no trees are removed. It doesn't say that it cannot be located in a wetland. It says that the impacts on the wetlands should be minimized. As bearing on that, in my view, is if we have the site plan back up there again, the impact on wetlands, there's a wetland located up towards the top, the northwest. That has been avoided. There's a section of wetland, as I interpret this, in the lower southeast corner. I don't know what the remainder of that wetland looks like. If this just happens to be a small piece of a much larger wetland, I don't think that really should result or cause one to conclude that the impact to wetlands has not been minimized. That may be a double negative. And the same for woodlands. I don't know that we have a woodland there. We may have 5 or 6 trees, and in my view, that's not a woodland. I don't know that a woodland is a forest. It's something less than a forest, but it may just be a few trees. That said, I don't think it's unreasonably burdensome to have our arborist walk through the site and test and examine what she said. I think those are not oaks based upon where they're located. I don't think that's an unreasonable burden. So I don't know that they really need to submit a detailed plan or a wetland delineation, but I would like to see more evidence to show that the impact on wetlands has been minimized. As I said, it doesn't say that they can't locate a portion of it in a wetland. It just says that the impacts to woodlands and wetlands shall be minimized. So I would like to see evidence addressing that. And I think you get an idea, at least as to one board member, what I'm thinking of. I don't think the actual wetland delineation study is necessary, as it's not required in the application, and I think staff could address that, whether it's necessary in the application, but I think we need some evidence to address that issue.
Bill, can I respond, please?
Sure.
Thanks, Bill. Just to respond, the petitioner testified that the wetland delineation study and the tree study will be required for our stormwater management ordinance pursuant to the permit. My request to delay is that we as a body approve this site plan, and there's been no evidence of minimization of impact to wetlands or woodlands. And as you'll recall from applications in the past, we do occasionally receive willing wetland and tree studies from solar developers as part of the application. It does tend to be at their discretion, and I am asking that because this involves both, that we have this prior to approving the site plan.
And just to be clear, I agree with you that evidence addressing subparagraph E has not been provided. I'm just suggesting the form in which we get that evidence is up to the petitioner, and at least I don't feel it needs to be the wetland delineation, a formal one. If they choose to opt that way, that's their call. And I just speak as one board member.
Mr. Eldridge, you have comments?
Yes, unlike the previous two speakers, I am not a lawyer. However, I have been concerned with this petitioner. I feel that they have been less than forthright, that a good deal of the testimony has been weighted in their own favor, and that they haven't straightforwardly addressed things that work in the other direction. I was particularly concerned to receive the letter from the Conservation District, who in turn had been concerned that they, in their previous testimony a couple of weeks ago, had implied that the Conservation District had reviewed and, if not endorsed, at least was not opposed to the project. And the Conservation District clearly had done no such thing. But as a result of that, it is my opinion that the petitioner has not yet met the standards of the state ordinance, the state law, and that I think that what the previous two legal eagles have suggested would go a long way towards satisfying that. In particular, I have a great deal of respect for Ms. Skrudrud, who has been involved in water management and best conservation practices for 30 or 40 years in this area. If she were not, she's clearly alarmed at the area in the southwest of the property having panels on it. The Boone Creek organization I know to be a very professional and very skilled organization in dealing with this. So it is up to the petitioner to choose to provide whatever evidence they choose to produce. But at this moment, I cannot, I will support the request for continuance because while I cannot vote against a petition, actually I can if I have a finding that they have not met the state standards. But I don't wish to make that finding because I think it's still up in the air. So I am going to support a continuance in the hopes that I will be provided with sufficient evidence that I can comfortably vote in favor at a later date.
Mr. Cozen?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I believe the issues concerning the wetland is suitably covers my two concerns, but more specifically, also that we are looking before us this document, and I find that this document lacks certain specificity, even as it applies to the public record, as well as being also a layperson. I have heard often the concern of precedent, and many times it has been attempted to address me. But when I look at the site data table, and it indicates that 1.8 or approximately 50,000 square feet of woodland or forest is to be removed, it gives me pause as is this the benchmark, the floor or the ceiling of other solars coming through McHenry County? And yet, Note 2 indicates that this plan was produced utilizing GIS resources, even though such public resources already exist through the administration of the Conservation District, of which the director was a signature to a letter of concern. But more so, was this year the state of Illinois, and I recognize that we may be caught between the proverbial rock and the hard place, enacted Public Act 103-0863 involving the identification, awareness, commemoration, and preservation of significant trees throughout Illinois, of which the executive director was appointed to in the month of May. It would be highly awkward from my personal perspective to go forward without some specificity of what is actually within 50,000 square feet of this particular property, rather than just relying on a single photo by the McHenry County Conservation District. And that is my statement.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, clearly we are not ready to vote here, so we're going to continue this hearing until more information is brought forth.
Madam Chair, could we have a vote on the motion? To continue, I think would be appropriate.
Should we be voting on that?
Motion to continue.
Yeah, a motion and a second, but,
Motion and a second, so you are obligated to act upon that motion.
okay.
I would caution, we do, if we're going to end up with a continuation, that we do eventually have to come up with a date and time certain.
Right. Okay, we have a,
Could we have a minute to see if we can get you a time frame that would work for that continuance?
sure,
I hate to ask for a break. but-
that's fine. Yeah. We are, we got the other hearing to go. Part of it will. I think I already opened it, though.
43,560.
That's why they never
Square
let
feet.
me travel in the rural area.
Feel free to
So a reminder to the board that the mics are still live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still. Yeah. It's more than you said. Yes.
Madam Chair, it does appear that the clients may be about ready. So to our audience members, I'm going to ask you to please to be quiet while we resume, please.
Okay, have you found a good date?
We'd like to ask for a continuance to whatever date works for the zoning board on the week of October 20th to 24th. It's essentially about a month's worth of work, and we need to work with the plans once we do that.
So, Madam Chair, given those parameters, that would be either the 22nd or the 29th of October.
I will not be here the 29th.
22nd.
The 22nd and the 24th, unfortunately, we're not available the week of the 29th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I
Okay.
was sort of giving those 4 days.
Okay, so would the 22nd be viable? Okay.
The 24th is not. Okay, are we all good here?
Madam Chair, I request recognition. If that's the date, I'd like to amend my motion to include continuance to a date certain of October 22nd at 1:30 PM, pending the receipt of a wetland delineation study and a tree study.
I'll second.
Okay.
And if I could ask just for purpose, we actually need to move it to both a date and a place certain, so if you just confirm it's here as well.
Oh, yeah. October 22nd at 1:30 at the county building.
In this room.
In this room. Thank you, sorry, we're stuck with that otherwise. On these chairs. Right here.
On a row.
With these few little mics that we have, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you now need to take the roll call.
Yeah. And did I on the other one? I don't think I did.
No, we didn't proceed to a vote on the
No,
other.
we haven't
We just
voted.
amended it.
This is the vote on that.
So she amended the.
Yeah.
Right, to
So the
continue.
motion does it, really.
Yeah, okay.
My
Miss-
second, I approve the amendment.
Okay. Actually, I thought Mr. Eldridge seconded. Okay. Mr. Eldridge,
Yes.
Mr. Cozen,
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel.
Yes.
Ms. Beverly,
Yes.
Ms. Donner,
Aye.
Mr. Kernick,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. So we will continue to October 24th, 22nd,
Yes.
October 22nd, 1:30, this room. Thank you.
So that does conclude the hearing for petition number, what is it, 65, I believe?
65, yes. Z7, Yeah, I don't know. I already opened it. Maybe we should just postpone that one.
So you, at the last meeting, you
I
did
did,
open
I
the
opened it.
hearing for 66 to this date and time certain, so you will, if you
Bring it to-
want to, will need to continue that one as well. And did I say the correct date or the
Yeah.
petition number? Is the next one 66 or 64? 64, okay, okay.
Okay.
So
Then,
do you want to take any testimony today, or do you just want to continue it to
We
date and
don't
time
really
certain?
have much time.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I apologize for interrupting, but this might be helpful. We would request a motion to also continue, since we're going to do the same, to take a look at this issue for both projects, to continue both projects to October 22nd at 1:30 in this location, in this chair.
That makes sense. Okay, we will do that. Okay. I don't think we need a vote for
No,
that.
you don't need to
No.
vote. You just roll,
Yeah.
bang
So
your
at the
gavel
request
and
of
we're done.
petitioner, it's done.
So we're done. So,
So
I think you
for
do-
the
I think you
record,
do
let's
need
go
to
ahead
vote to
and
continue it.
let's do an actual motion, even though the applicant may be asking for it, just for keeping the record straight. Let's go ahead and do the motions
okay, we
and the
need
vote, please.
a motion to continue the other one. Okay, we need a motion.
I move.
You better state this, to continue what is it?
64.
64, yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
To
okay,
October 22nd at 1:30 in this room, in these chairs.
that's right.
Can we just make it clear for the record that this was at the request of the applicant?
At the request of the petitioner.
There we go. Okay. Who made that motion?
Charlie did.
And who seconded? Second, okay, thank you.
So the record shows that Charlie made the motion and Kurt made the second.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna write it here because it's the wrong paper. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna do, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are continued to October 22nd, 1:30 here.
Okay.
Okay, and we are adjourned.